This case says, I'm confused. If Jesus was the king, why wouldn't the Jews, the writers of the Old Testament, believe in him and declare him as Lord? Yeah, I agree. If he was the king and if he actually did what the prophecy said he would do, they wouldn't have rejected his ass. Imagine having to use Chat GPT because you haven't actually read the book and then having this amount of confidence in a book you've never read.
I have read the book.
If you had read it, you'd know what we're talking about right now. You wouldn't have to keep Googling it.
No, because I got to make sure I understand the metaphors to break them down for you.
They're not metaphors. They're only metaphors when you don't like what they say. See, when you don't like what the prophecy actually says, you have to do dumb things and say, oh, it's a metaphor.
The land God gave to Jacob is generally understood to be the region known today as Israel and its surrounding areas. It is described in various parts of the Bible. The borders of the promised land are most famously outlined in the book of Genesis, Exodus, and Numbers, and the general area includes parts of modern-day Israel, Palestine, and surrounding regions.
We all know where Israel is. The question is, how is this fulfilled in Jesus? Because it says that the Messiah, presumably Jesus, is going to be king over them, and that the north and the south are going to be...
Bob already explained that. Israel's still the beacon of God.
We'll try this again. It says that there's going to be a king, and that king is going to be where?
Yeah, from king from David's line would imply that this ruler would reign from Jerusalem or have some connection to the city.
Yeah, in Jerusalem, yeah. And did Jesus rule and reign as king in Jerusalem?
Isn't that the capital still for Jesus?
Let's try this again, Davis. The passage states that he's going to restore the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. He's going to bring the people back to the land, and he's going to be a physical king on the throne of David among his people in the land. None of that happened.
Dude, Israel is still a beacon for Christ.
And Jesus,
to this day,
and Jesus
unwavering.
isn't there. They're not a beacon
unwavering
for Christ.
For any duration.
They rejected Christ.
Unwavering for any duration.
Unwavering rejection of Jesus.
Okay, Bob.
Just saying he's a king doesn't actually make him a king. That's not the way that works, Bob.
Not physically, spiritually, Bob.
It says he's going to be a king in a physical location.
And he was.
He was never a king. You can't show me one passage where he was ever a king.
Okay.
Now I'm going to cook you on the genealogy because I guarantee you haven't actually read through the genealogies.
All right, let's cook.
Matthew chapter 1.
What about it?
How does genealogy work in terms of determining your tribe? Do you know in the Bible?
No, I don't.
It goes through the father, doesn't it?
Right.
Cool. Now, the problem we have here is the genealogy in Matthew not only goes to Joseph, who wasn't the father of Jesus, but it's also true that it goes through somebody who was cursed. And it was said in Jeremiah 22 that his ancestors would never be on the throne. That's in verse 11. It traces the genealogy of Joseph. It says, and Josiah, the father of Jeconiah and his brothers at the time of the deportation of Babylon. So the genealogy goes through Jeconiah.
So Matthew 1 through 17 isn't a passage that traces Jesus' lineage?
It goes to Joseph, who wasn't the father of Jesus.
Okay, I don't think you're true on that.
I'll just read it for you since apparently you haven't read it. So if you go to the beginning,
I think it's specifically crafted to demonstrate that Jesus
as the
fulfills
father
Old Testament
of Isaac.
prophecy.
He didn't fulfill a single prophecy. So it starts.
He promised to made Abraham and David.
So it starts with Abraham and then it ends in Joseph. The last person, it says, and Jacob, the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary. So Joseph is the father, or I'm sorry, Jacob is the father of Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
And Joseph was not the father of Jesus. The second problem is that it goes through Jeconiah. And we know from the Old Testament that Jeconiah was cursed. It says in Jeremiah 22 that none of his offspring will succeed in sitting on the throne of David. It's Jeremiah 22, verse 30.
After the exile, the genealogy moves to Jeconiah, the last king before the exile, and the line continues through his descendants, leading to Joseph, the husband of Mary,
not a
mother
single
of Jesus.
descendant of Jeconiah ever sat on the throne because he was cursed. Says
He was the last
"Thus
king
saith
before the
the
exile.
I'm
correct?
aware. Thus saith the Lord, record this man as childless, a man who shall not succeed in his days, for none of his offspring shall succeed in sitting on the throne of David and ruling again in Judah. Meaning, if you are a descendant of Jeconiah, you cannot sit on the throne. You're not allowed to do it. Your lineage has been cursed. So Matthew's genealogy not only doesn't actually go to Jesus, it goes to Joseph, but also
So let me ask you this.
Jeconiah.
You said Jesus was never a king, but establishing that he was a descendant from David and Abraham, isn't that a legitimate claim to be the Messiah king?
No, because
in Jewish tradition? In Jewish tradition?
David,
son.
Not even close, because David had thousands and thousands of descendants. Just claiming,
that doesn't matter.
It does. Just claiming to be a descendant from David doesn't make
it's not a claim. It's proven based on
not proven.
Dude, you're cooked. You just walked into that.
Try this again. Just being a descendant of King David doesn't make you a king. And we've already looked at the genealogy. The genealogy goes through a cursed lineage
by Jewish tradition,
and it ends in Joseph, who wasn't the actual father of Jesus. Do you see the problem with that?
No, I don't. And you're not listening to what I'm saying, so okay, I'm just going to leave.
So I need you to actually address what I said, which was that it goes through Jeconiah first. In Jeremiah 22:30, what does it say about Jeconiah's descendants? Just read the verse on the page. It's right in front of you.
It doesn't say, it doesn't reference any. I'm not on that page directly referring to you. Hold 30, on, let me see where you're at.
Read it off the screen. Man can't even boil water and thinks he's cooking.
And his didn't after the exile.
Okay, so it says.
But David and Abraham did.
So David was before Jeconiah, dummy. So it says that none of Jeconiah's offspring will ever again rule in Judah, correct?
It said David's offspring wouldn't?
No, Jeconiah's offspring. We're reading the curse of Jeconiah. And it says that none of his descendants will sit on the throne of David and rule again in Judah. Right?
Okay.
Okay. So that means anyone from the lineage of Jeconiah is now disqualified from sitting on the throne. You understand?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if Jesus's descendants came from Jeconiah, that means he is disqualified from sitting on the throne.
No, he didn't. No.
Yep.
He didn't have any. Jeconiah did not have any descendants who actually ruled as king after the Babylon exile.
Yes, because he was cursed. Because it literally said that none of his descendants would rule again on the throne of David. And if Jesus is one of his descendants, that means he also cannot rule on the throne of King David.
He wasn't a biological descendant of Joseph.
I agree, which means he's not even a descendant. Okay, so then the best you have is a guy who was adopted by a guy from a cursed lineage.
Correct. That's why the curse
goes to Joseph, which is why the curse does matter. Yeah, because Joseph is part of that genealogy, which means he is not liable or not liable. He's not able. His lineage is not able to be on the throne.
No.
Yep. So not only was he never actually on the throne, he's not even allowed.
Luke traces the lineage through Mary.
Oh, I love
Jesus'
that.
biological
mother. I was waiting
who
for
is
that
also
pivot.
a defendant of David.
I was waiting for that pivot. I've never been more happy to see you do a dumb pivot. So we're going to go to Luke chapter 3.
You're about to cook yourself again. I've cooked you on every single thing.
You have no idea how bad you're cooked. You can't even boil water right now. Okay, so the genealogy in the book of Luke, surprise, surprise, goes to Joseph again. Want to read it?
You can go ahead.
Jesus was about 30 years old when he began his work. He was the son, as was thought, of Joseph, son of Heli, son of Mathat, son of Levi. Ooh, it's Joseph. Oh, no. Where's Mary?
Mary's the one who gave... Are you kidding me? Did Joseph spit him out of his butt? No.
We're talking in Luke. The genealogy goes to Joseph, not Mary. Your claim was that the genealogy in Luke went
Mary
to
was
Mary.
The only...
So Your claim, Davis, was that the genealogy from Luke goes through Mary. Show me where that happens.
Show you where she gave a virgin birth?
Show me where the genealogy of Luke goes to Mary. That was your claim.
Who was he adopted by?
He was adopted by Joseph. Pay attention. Your claim was that the genealogy in Luke went to Mary and not Joseph. Now I'm in Luke and we're looking at the genealogy and it goes to Joseph, not Mary. So you're caught again. Never read the book.
Nope.
Okay, then show me in Luke 3 where it gives the genealogy of Mary. Because as it turns out, Mary's a fucking Levite. And if you bothered to read the book of Luke, you would know that.
There's like 30,000 different cross-references.
You don't need a cross-reference. You need the verse that's already on the screen in front of your eyeballs.
Hold on. I'm looking. Not as sure as I'm looking at something real quick. Hold on.
You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, apparently.
We'll go to Luke 3:31.
I'm in Luke 3 right now. I'm waiting for the verse that talks
about... Go to 31.
Okay, 31. Says, son of Melech, son of Menah, son of Mathatha, son of Nathan, son of David. Funny, there's no Mary there. And you've got a second problem. Luke chases the genealogy through Nathan, the son of David, but according to the book of Chronicles and the book of Samuel's, the genealogy of the throne goes through...
Matthew's genealogy traces Jesus' legal descent through...
Goes through not Nathan, it goes through Solomon. That's in First Chronicles, and it's in the book of Samuel. The genealogy has to go through Solomon, not through Nathan. And again... even if it went through Solomon, which it doesn't, it still terminates in Joseph, not Mary. So all you have to do is read it and find me where it says Mary.
Luke traces the lineage through Mary.
Can you show me where it goes to Mary? That's where we're still at right now.
Mary gave birth. Are you kidding me?
I know. I'm asking about the genealogy. We're talking about the genealogy going to Mary. Where can I find that genealogy? You
Luke traces the lineage through Mary.
Said it
That's not significant. Luke traces the lineage through Mary.
Said it
That's not significant.
You brought it up, motherfucker. You said the genealogy in Luke went to Mary. I'm asking you to show me where. Can you show me that?
Him. Luke traces the lineage through Mary. I said she birthed him. Luke traces the lineage through Mary.
You said the genealogy in Luke went to Mary. You said that. Those were your words. And now you're up here lying.
Luke traces the lineage through Mary.
The only thing I need for you to say right now is whether or not the genealogy of Mary is ever given in the Bible. Was it ever given? Yes or no?
No, because there's not a reference to it. Luke traces the lineage through Mary. No, because there's not a reference to it on why it matters.
Cool. So
Luke traces the lineage through Mary. Why would it matter?
It matters because you brought it up, not me.
Dude, I've cooked you on every single one of them. You just don't listen.
Not even close.
If you understood poetry, metaphors, and you understand the larger picture, and you read the book in its entirety...
Not only do I understand poetry and metaphor, I know when it is poetry and when it's not poetry. It's not poetry and metaphor just when you don't like what it actually says. That's the only hermeneutic you've got.
The whole
you don't like what it says.
Completely lost that.
Not even close.
You lost that entirely.
Not even close. A war horse is a war horse. That's why when you go to the actual prophecies about
Did he come in as a war horse?
Did he come in as a war horse? It doesn't say he will be a war horse, dummy. It says he will.
Stopped it.
It says he will cut off the war horse.
Well, I'm gonna let you go. I'll pray for you.
All right. I will be praying for you and your sick religion. No. Imagine having that level of confidence in a book you've never read, getting utterly annihilated while thinking that you're cooking.
Good. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you for asking. Zaria, are you at least 18 and are you a believer?
I am 23 and I am not, but I wanted to ask you a question, but you can boot me if you just want people that you're debating with tonight.
Well, yeah, we do want debates, but if you got one question, I'll answer it. You're already up here.
Yeah, you were talking about the ancestry of Jesus and how there are like fallacies, there's incorrect things going on with that, and I didn't fully catch that conversation. So like what's the most like alarming one for you?
Well, I think the biggest issue is that the genealogy terminates in Joseph on both occasions. So if the genealogy go to Joseph and your way of fixing it is like, well, Joseph adopted him, this is like a really bullshit way of getting around the fact that Jesus didn't actually have lineage going to David. And then the fact that Luke goes through Nathan, which isn't allowed, it has to go through Solomon, and Matthew goes through Jeconiah, which isn't allowed, it can't go through Jeconiah. So even
He's
if
cursed.
exactly, he's cursed. It's like,
Yeah.
what are you doing here? Like, even if we would count adoption as being legitimate, doesn't matter. Both those lineages are cursed. Not cursed, but one of them's cursed and one of them is improper.
That's interesting.